Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm going to be going over my painting and decorating toolbox. This is what I take to any job where I'm carrying out decorating work and I know that I've got the majority of the tools that I need to hand. So as you can see, it's a Fat Max. I've got 3 of these and this is the smaller version. They make 2 sizes, and I really rate this for if you've not got too many long tools like big levels and so on to carry, then I suggest this box is really good. So as every toolbox should have, I've got a Stanley knife or utility knife, nice heavy duty one. This is a Stanley Titan. Check out one of my other videos where I go over all heavy duty utility knives. This is a firm favourite of mine. I've got a fair few of these. They're great. Got a scraper. This looks really kind of cheap and rubbish, but these are absolutely invaluable. It's a carbide scraper. The blades just last for forever. Anytime you need to strip into corners, it's got a really nice sharp blade. Rips out all the rubbish and all the old paint and things really nicely. Combine it with a heat gun and it's even better. It's just a great tool to have. Not too expensive, fairly comfortable on the hands for what it is. Highly recommend it. I keep a nice little ratchet screwdriver, just a small one, just for fixtures, fittings, stuff like that. It's got a few little bits that are inside it. It's not brilliant, but it's just a cheap one. Generally the tools in here are going to get covered in rubbish anyway, so just a nice cheap ratchet screwdriver. Sharpie marker. Keep a little wire brush just for cleaning bits down. It's only a soft bristled one, not too tough, but just a little one. Set of pliers, really useful in just about any toolbox. These are just good for pulling out pins, pulling out nails. When you're prepping a job, you often have bits stuck in walls and stuck in woodwork that you don't want there. Cable clips and things like that. These are just great for ripping stuff like that out. Keep a little set of Allen keys, nothing too big, only small sizes. So this is a mix between metric and imperial. Good for things like curtain rails and other fixtures, fittings and so on. Little plastic scraper. I buy these in sort of quite big packs. You get a whole bunch of them. It's not normally this shape. It's usually shaped kind of like that. There you go. It's usually shaped like that. And what I do is I take a Stanley knife and I just carve it into a rounded side on one side, and it just is really useful for scraping the filler out of a pot like this. It just works really well, and you can also use it as a little quick and easy filling knife if you need to. But I use this for mixing up my filler. It's just a rubber tub. It's just designed for mixing filler, and I just get the powder, throw it in with some water, and this combined with that, absolutely ideal. So yeah, I keep that in my box just because it saves me another box and it saves me a walk to the van. I keep a Monarch brush. I really like this brand of brushes. This is just a general purpose one I use. It's an angled one, so it's great for cutting in and things. I tend to just keep this out. It's better to have a cover on it. I don't know where that's gone to, but that just sits in the box. Keep another ratchet screwdriver if you're taking off doors or anything like that. This is ideal. And as I've done in my other review video, I make a mention of this. This is a pretty handy screwdriver to have. Very heavy duty for what I paid for it. It's a good bit of kit. Keep a little scraper. This is good for if you've managed to get a bit of paint on glass, on windows or anything like that. This will just get it off. I always try and give a little spray of water on before scraping anything off windows, otherwise you're really likely to scratch the glass and get a callback for it. So yeah, really useful. These are lend caps. These can just go on, say, a roller pole. I keep a short one, it's probably about a foot long. You can just screw that on, and some rollers will just fit on with a cap, or some tools will just fit on with a kind of open handle and slide on. So it's a sort of adapter that I use. Got a couple of those. If it's a screw thread, I'll try and find a tool that uses it. There you go. There you go, it's got a screw thread on this one. I use this for holding brushes if I'm cutting in or anything. Then I can slide that up there. If I just want to extend my brush, sometimes you just can't reach or whatever. This is a really useful tool to get you out of trouble. You just stick that on there, and then that will just allow you to cut in. And I've also got varying lengths of poles and things that I can put this on a pole and paint the top of a house if I wanted to. It works an absolute treat. The angles change. This particular model, it's not the nicest adjustment, but it's a good bit of kit. It's got me out of so much trouble over the years. Another brush, just a general purpose, sort of round tip, just cheap. Use it as a dusting brush, whatever you want to do with it. Cork replacement tips. Often get silicone and cork jammed up in the ones if you leave it for any length of time. Usually you can reuse the product if you just take that off and put a new one on. So I've always got those lying about. And I've got paint can openers, and I've got them absolutely everywhere, to be honest, because you always need them, and they usually end up lying around the job all over the place. So get a few of them. Various ones. There you go. These are made by Purdy. Not sure about this one, but yeah, you see them there. I'd say this is actually the best one. These ones tend to be a little bit flexible. You see how they've bent. One there has bent pretty badly, so it's not particularly strong. This one's pretty good. Tent peg. I've mentioned it on my other video where I use this for cork guns and adhesive guns and things, and I use this just to poke and break the seal on the inside that some of them have, and it just keeps all my other tools all clean. This is a great tool if you're going up and working on a ladder or anything like that. You can hand that little clip just goes on a small paint can, and you can hang that off the ladder. Just sits there nicely as you dip it in. Really good to have. Doesn't take much space. These are for going in the end of a roller. If you've got that style of roller and frame, then they're useful to have. I don't use them very much, but they're good to have there just in case. I've got Stanley blades there, just sat in the bottom, and I've also got some little spare blades for that scraper that I mentioned earlier. A little silicone profiling tool. This one is by Unibond. It's pretty standard in shops. You'll often see this. I find the profiles are not perfect. You're better off getting a set where you can actually really pick your profile setting, but for general purpose this is all right. This little pole adapter. Been meaning to make up my own painting pole for a little while, but that just sits there. Yeah, at the start of any job, these are usually the first tools that come out. These two here, along with, I'll find it in a second. Yeah, there it is. Along with the dusting brush, these three tools go straight in my pocket on any painting job. Just sits there. going to use these so much. You're constantly going to need a little utility knife, whether it's for your prep work of scraping the odd little bit out or cutting packaging open or anything. You're just always going to need that, and it's so small. It just fits easy. It's not super heavy duty, but it's going to cut something if you need it. This is a painter's tool, sometimes known as a 6-in-1 or an 8-in-1, depending how they want to market it and what little bells and whistles they put on it. But you see that's for cleaning rollers. You can just scrape the paint off a roller. You can open paint cans with that. You can scrape in little tiny reveals with that. This particular one, made by Purdy, is really good. It came super sharp out of the box, had a nice edge on it, and the steel seems to be holding up really well. Quite comfortable, nice comfortable handle, and it's got a hammer end cap on it. Dusting brush, you're just constantly going to be pulling this out of your pocket and just dusting plates, skirting boards and things down before you paint them. This is just so useful to actually have, not to keep in your toolbox. Keep this in your pocket because you're going to be using it all interchangeably, all these 3 items. So yeah, very useful. It's known as a fitch brush or lining fitch brush. Yeah, when you need it, but when you don't, it just sits in the box. Putty knife, don't tend to use this one a whole lot. Again, it's just got a shape that will just get into various places. I tend to use this for old school window putty and things like that. It's just lives in that box. Another Sharpie marker and a pencil. A couple of pencils in there. Carpenter's pencils, nice and thick. They can withstand being bashed around in a toolbox. So they're useful to keep in there. This little scraper I mentioned in my handyman toolbox video. Check it out if you want to see a bit more info about it. But if you want a nice cheap alternative, then just type in beehive tool into the auction sites. And I think people that keep beehives, for some reason, they use this to open the top of the box or something, and they scrape the honey with this. I don't know why, but either way, this is one of their tools, and it's the same as the decorating pry bars that you can buy, only about half the price. Absolutely invaluable. I use this as a scraper, I use it as a pry bar for trim. Brilliant, so cheap but so useful. And I think I keep a couple of little brushes in here. These are always useful, little detailing brushes. Sometimes you just need the smallest of brush to get into the smallest of areas to make the job nice, and it's really useful just to have this. They wash quickly. You can quickly apply paint to a small area. Get another one there. That's that. That's the tray done. For the bigger boxes down below, keep some masks. You're going to be doing a lot of sanding and scratching layers of old paint and maybe lead-based paint and so on, so you really want some protection. Keep a pack of nozzles just lying there. Yeah, some more of those nozzles, because you're going to go through a lot of that, and you don't want to be wasting cartridges just because the nozzle has dried out. Really big heavy duty scraper. I think this is a 6-inch model, 6-inch wide on that bit, but it's a really long one. You can see if you're stripping wallpaper and even skim coat plaster, this is a really good model to use on it. Scrapes really well. Keep a spare set of blades in there as well. Not too expensive for these. They work really well, and you can sharpen them as you go as well, so they last even longer. So keep a sharpening stone whenever you're using these, handy. This doesn't necessarily live in this box. It takes up a lot of space, and it's got that blade on the end of it. So this goes interchangeably between my plastering toolbox and my painting toolbox, depending on what I'm doing. But it's just here because it's a useful tool to have in here. I've got a sanding handle. These ones with the foam bottom under there are really good. They just mold nicely. I use them on walls, I use them on skirting boards, I use them on just about everything. They're really, really handy to have. This is a relatively new one for me. For years I used this one. I'll show you this one, the Marshalltown model, which has got a nice comfortable handle and everything, but if I was to buy all over again, this is the first one I'd get. These are great. It's got this clip that just holds down the sandpaper. It's a lot easier than messing about with the turn wheel that the Marshalltown uses. Very good, very handy. Keep a wire brush. You go through a lot of these. This is a good one. It's got a good fat sort of head on it. It's also got a good scraping blade. I like the ones with this because you're going to use them both around the same time. That one's made by Super Tool. Always keep some little form of trowel in here. You're always going to be scooping products and things out of pots. This just works well. Also works well as a sort of hawk, a little bit like you use in plastering, where you can just use it for putty and just scrape off of that. Just handy. Keep a set of pliers. Pulling out nails, pins, anything that you need to grab, remove whilst you're doing prep work. Always keep a little level, torpedo style level in there. It's only a cheap one, this. I think it came out of a multi-pack from Screwfix years ago. And I just use this for leveling light switches and anything that any kind of fixtures and fittings that I'm putting back. This is just worth having in there. It's a paintbrush tool, or just a clean-up tool of sorts. When you're done with a painting job, you're usually left over with a whole mess of your tools. So I clean up my rollers using this, where I can just scrape it down. That's a Purdy roller. Just whack my camera. Purdy roller there. I'll do a separate review on those one day. That's pretty much what I use is always. Purdy's such a good brand, in my opinion. But yeah, I use that for cleaning the rollers, and I use the brush for cleaning brushes out. You get all the last bits of paint just out of the brush. Nice sharp teeth on it. Seems like it's going to just last forever, and you can also clean the small rollers using the end there. Saves a lot of time with cleanup, saves your hands as well. Just use this, so I keep it in that toolbox always. Keep a nice cheap set of specs. These are just DeWalt ones. They're very cheap. It's probably scratched all over, as you can see, but I don't wear them for extended periods of time. I just use them when I know that there's a good chance that something's going to fly back at me. And even when doing the odd sealing, I might wear it when I'm looking upwards. Keep a hammer in this toolbox. This is a Barco hammer. I really rate these. As far as tubular steel hammers go, they can usually be pretty cheap, nasty rubbish, but this particular one from Barco is good for the price, so it just lives in here. It's just a 16 ounce. I don't need a big carpenter's hammer or anything like that in here. I just need something that can give a tap to a nail or whatever. Little brush, little cutting in brush. Little bit of masking tape. If you get a case or anything with masking tape, try and keep the case, because sometimes it can just go dry in your box by the time you come to use it again. So yeah, try and protect it better than what I have there. I keep a whole load of paint stirrers. I like these plastic ones, but I wish that they wouldn't make them with the little holes going down, and they're just a pain to clean. It's kind of unnecessary. But yeah, these sit well on the bucket with those hooks, and apart from the holes, they do clean up quite easily, and they just seem like they'll last forever. Smaller one there, and old school wooden one, can't go wrong with. This is a relatively new device, probably falls under the gadget category. And I'll just put this onto a paint pot, and you can clip your brush like that so that all the drips are held in there. I thought that was such a good idea when I saw it. It's the little things in life, isn't it? But yeah, useful. It's got a little paint tin opener there. Only cheap. By Silverline. As soon as I saw it, I just knew I'd be using it one day. It's a good big kit. This thing here looks complicated, but it's basically the same as the other paintbrush holder that I showed you, just a little bit nicer. It's got some nice adjustments to it, and you just pull. So it's a little bit harder to do. You go push in and pull, and you can angle this here. It's got the screw thread there. This one's made by Worcester. If I was to choose which one to buy out of this one and the Pro Deck, I'd say go for the Worcester. It just gives you more options, but you won't go far wrong by having at least one of those. This is a paintbrush spinner. You can stick a brush in here when you're on the cleanup and you want to get home quickly. You can just stick a brush into this just at the end, and then when you pump the handle, it just spins all the water and excess paint mix out of the brush. Just do it inside a bucket, and it'll flick it all on the inside of the bucket and clean your brush a lot quicker. Make sure if you use this spinner that you actually use the comb that I showed earlier, something like that, because otherwise you end up with the bristles all flared out all over the place. It's a really nice cleanup tool, saves a lot of time. Sorry I'm sniffing a lot at the moment, guys, I've got a bit of a cold right now. Okay, I've got a screwdriver. This is just a cheap multi-bit from Stanley. Absolutely brilliant in a paint box, this particular one, just because it's got all these bits, and this is why it's in here. I've got Torx bits, I've got flat bits, I've got Phillips, I've got Allen keys, yeah, everything apart from posies by the look of it. But yeah, this'll deal with most fixtures and fittings. Really useful to have. Just a cheap Stanley screwdriver. Use this as just a bit of a beater one, maybe scraping silicone, prying the odd little bit out. Nothing too heavy duty, but just clean up and general work. This item here, I bought it specifically for just working on staircases and things like that, where you need to scrape in lots of corners and things. As you see, it's got these nasty little points on there, and you can just dig out old cork and old paint and things like that. It's a good prep tool. Whatever you do though, make sure you put it back in the box every time. Don't risk standing on it, because when it sits flat like that, it's just got a horrible point that will probably put you out of action for a bit. It's yeah, nasty. So yeah, good prep tool. I keep a little roll of little freezer bags in this box all the time, and I use these just for if I'm going to lunch or something like that. I'll stick the paintbrush in one of these small bags, and it just keeps it wet for me. Nice and convenient. I just keep those in there. Filling knives. I've got all manner of filling knives that you could probably ever use. These ones, lovely and flexible to use. Ideal, take up almost no space. You can use them for putting the filler onto there and using it like a hawk. I use scrapers. Nice and stiff blade, so it's not going anywhere. If it's got a stiff blade, you're going to be scraping with it. Try not to use your filling knives as scrapers. The ones that are flexible like this, as soon as you start using them as scrapers, then every time you try filling after that, they just don't work quite as well. So try and use your scrapers for scraping and your filling knives for filling. But yeah, they generally get used all around the same time. Smaller scrapers. have a nice little selection depending on what I'm working on. And this tool here is just a nice flexible blade, very multi-purpose. I use this for so many bits and pieces. You can use it as a little guide if you're doing wallpapering and you want to trim. You can just take your knife and just use that as almost like a straight edge, and it's great. I use it a little bit like a hawk again. If I'm putting putty on it, I can use a small filling blade and I'll just pile it all over there. It's just in a big blob there, and I'll just use it and just scrape off on that. It's really, really handy for that. Keep a sanding block. Don't tend to use this anywhere near as much as the Stanley handle that I use. This is just for smaller items, just knocking off little edges and stuff, but always good to have in there. And that is pretty much it, guys. That is my painting toolbox. If you've got any other ideas, things that I should have in it or shouldn't have in it, or any kind of positive discussion, I'd love to hear it. Love to hear your ideas. Please like and subscribe, check out my other videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.